Blog Talk Radio.
The following program, Normal Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting NORML.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Normal Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Normal. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. Then it goes down smooth.
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we can criminalize our laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Normal Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Normal's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, everyone, all across cyberspace and all across America. Welcome to Normal Show Live. Glad to have you here. I am so happy. I couldn't be much happier than I am right now, and that's because, of course, my Boise State Broncos finished the season undefeated, 14-0, defeating Texas Christian University last night, 17-10 in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. As I like to say, we are now the college football national champions, separate but equal division. And joining us on the phone, my good friend from Astoria, Oregon, also an Idaho native like myself, my half sister, Cannabis Carrie, is on the line. Cannabis Carrie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Russ, I saw that game last night. It was great. I was thinking about you. What a good game.
Oh, we had a good time. I gave my dad a call. He still lives in Nampa, Idaho, and it's funny, we go to my dad's place for Christmas this year, and right in the inside of the house, behind the television set, two huge banners hanging from the ceiling there, one for Boise State, one for the Green Bay Packers. I told my dad my wife would never let me get away with that.
No, she wouldn't.
No, not at all. Much better taste. Hey, everybody, coming up on today's Normal Show Live, we are going to be speaking with the Deputy Director of NORML, Paul Armentano. He's one of the most well-educated and researched men on marijuana law reform in this country. If there's a study out on marijuana, he's read it, and if it's a bad one, he's debunked it. So we'll be talking to him today, as well as a guest from the Marijuana Policy Project, Aaron Smith, the California Director of Political Operations out there. The two of them will be joining us to talk about California's upcoming historic vote on Assembly Bill 390. This is the bill that was submitted by Assemblymember Tom Amiano, Democrat from San Francisco, to outright legalize marijuana. That's right, not decriminalize, not medical, full legalization of marijuana in the Golden State. The California Board of Equalization has said they can raise $1.4 billion, that's with a B, $billion in taxes from marijuana legalization. Paul and Aaron will be joining us after the bottom of the hour to talk about this. And we'll be taking your calls at 347-994-1810. If you want to ask Paul or Aaron any questions about California legalization, this would be the hour to do it. Oh, boy, lots of stuff coming up, as well as Sarah Kant, our Electric Tuesday music editor, will be joining us to bring us an interesting little experimental tune. Sounds like it's from Germany, but I'll get her take on that when she calls in at 20 after the hour. Every day we bring you a new Toker tune at 20 after so that you can enjoy that special time of the day. Also, we've got your news with Cannabis Carrie coming up right after this break. You're listening to Normal Show Live. This is the voice of the Marijuana Nation. We're so happy that you're joining us here every weekday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time. Also, check out our blog at stash.normal.org and join our chat at bit.li/normalchat. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinic has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Welcome back to the show.
Call your congressman today. 202-224-3121. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even have to give your name, just your zip code, and they'll hook you up to your congressman. Call 202-224-3121 and tell Congress you support marijuana legalization.
That's right. Call in to support marijuana legalization. The politicians are way behind the people on this issue. You've got to make your voice heard. Call that number 202-456-1111 to talk to President Obama or 202-224-3121 to talk to Congress. We'll be talking to Paul Armentano and Aaron Smith at the bottom of the hour, but now, time for the news.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Normal News with Cannabis Carey.
Hey, Russ.
There we go. Let's get you on the line. That'll work better if it's on.
Thanks, Russ. I'm glad to be here. Arkansas Attorney General Dustin McDaniel has rejected a proposed constitutional amendment to allow the use of medical marijuana. Little Rock attorney John Wesley Hall had submitted the proposal to put the issue of medical marijuana on this year's ballot. If passed, the law would have taken effect in July of 2011. Attorney General McDaniel stated that the proposal had too many flaws, one of which is that it didn't acknowledge that marijuana would still remain illegal under federal law. In Arkansas, the Attorney General must certify any ballot measure before supporters are allowed to collect signatures to place it on the ballot. Russ?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Too many flaws. The flaw there would be that he doesn't like marijuana and he doesn't want people to use it medically. This idea that this legislation or this proposed initiative in Arkansas is flawed is kind of a red herring. Look, we've got medical marijuana in 13 states. The language varies from state to state, but out of those 13, you can pretty much come up with a boilerplate for medical marijuana language for anybody that wants to try it. And if you'd like some of that language, send me an email at stash@normal.org. I'll be glad to help you out with it. But this idea that the initiative needs to acknowledge that it's still against federal law, what other obvious things should the initiative point out? That the sky is blue, perhaps? That water is wet? That M&Ms are tasty? I mean, come on. Everybody knows it's federally illegal. It's not the job of the laws of Arkansas to tell people what the laws of the federal government are. Arkansas and the Arkansas Attorney General should be most concerned with dealing with the laws of Arkansas. This is just another way that they're dismissing the will of the people. We have, once again, like we see in Minnesota or in Connecticut, where we have one person who stands in the way of getting medical marijuana to the people. This Attorney General knows full well that if this got onto the ballot, this initiative got onto the ballot, that it would pass overwhelmingly. Everywhere we poll in America about people's support for medical marijuana, it ranges between 60 and 80%. Even in the Deep South, 60 to 80% support for medical marijuana. And Arkansas, like Florida, is one of the few states in the South that actually has the power of citizen initiative. So it's time for the Attorney General to step out of the way and let the will of the people be heard.
About 50 people rallied outside the federal building in Oakland, California yesterday to protest a halfway house term for medical marijuana activist Michael Martin and demand that the federal government respect states' rights regarding medical cannabis. Martin was sentenced to 2 years of non-prison confinement for his March 2008 guilty plea to conspiring to manufacture and distribute a mixture containing a detectable amount of marijuana. Martin operated an Oakland-based business that produced candy, cookies, and other marijuana edibles. He has just finished a 1-year house arrest and will begin serving 1 year at a San Francisco halfway house today. Federal drug agents said they found 400 marijuana plants when they raided his Oakland facility in September of 2007. Berkeley City Councilman Chris Worthington spoke on Martin's behalf at the rally, as did Oakland City Councilwoman Rebecca Kaplan. Lauren Payne of Americans for Safe Access, a group that advocates for access to medical marijuana, said Martin is one of about 100 medical marijuana providers who have faced federal charges. After the rally at the federal building, protesters marched a few blocks to the nearby state building in downtown Oakland to ask the state to do more to protect patients and providers of cannabis.
Oh, every time we get a story here that involves someone that is in a medical marijuana state that is providing edibles, marijuana-infused edibles, boy, it just opens up a whole can of worms. First of all, on the legal aspect, if you're in a state that allows, say, 2 ounces of medical marijuana for possession, then when you cook, and let's say you take that 2 ounces and you make canna butter out of it and you make some brownies, and the brownies weigh 12 ounces, how much marijuana do you really have? Well, according to some people in law enforcement, they would weigh the entire pan of brownies, and the weight of the chocolate and the flour and all the other stuff would go toward the weight of what you're allowed to possess. So in a lot of states where these medical marijuana patients cook edibles, they're putting themselves outside of compliance because of these overzealous law enforcement people that would weigh the entire amount of the brownies or the cookies or the bread or whatever you're making. This is the same type of way prosecutors have busted people with LSD, where that's why you don't find LSD sugar cubes anymore, because they would bust them for the entire weight of the sugar cube. Another issue when we're talking about medical marijuana edibles has to deal with food handler licenses and food preparation licenses. And oftentimes the state agencies that are in charge of certifying the health of these, that they're following, health regulations, don't want to get their hands messy with the whole marijuana issue because they don't really have any health regulations for how to cook with marijuana. So it's a really thorny issue, and so every time this goes to court, I just shudder because there's not really been any really clear definitions when it comes to edibles. And the third thing about these edibles, this guy makes candy edibles, and for a long time in the California dispensaries, we were finding all sorts of clever little takeoffs on famous brand names like, say, Snickers bar, and it would be called a Munchies bar, or Reese's Pieces would become, Reese's Stoner Pieces, whatever. They'd make up silly names. Butterfinger, right? Like Bud, Butterfinger rather than Butterfinger. And I've always kind of had a problem with that, because one of the things we face in trying to get medical marijuana passed in some of these states, there's two main arguments that come against us. One is the issue of stone drivers, and the other one is, my God, what about the children? So when we start making candy bars that look, like something a kid would want to eat, and we have marijuana infused into it, that sends kind of a mixed message. It sends sets a kind of a bad political plank for us to argue from. Not that I'm necessarily against people having candy or cookies or edibles or anything like that, but it really confuses the public. If we're going to call it medicine, you don't dress it up to make it look like a candy bar or dress it up to make it seem non-medical. I think we can't have it both ways on this issue. We really need to be careful on how we market and produce these products. As far as Michael Martin and this conspiracy to manufacture, once again, we hope the best for him. We hope this trial comes out the way that it should, and he should be acquitted, because really he was just trying to follow California's Prop 215 and provide medicine to sick people that could really use it.
And on an update from a story we did last year, 8 Dutch cities had planned on transforming some of their famous cannabis coffee shops near the Belgian border into private clubs on January 1st to discourage foreigners' usage of Dutch marijuana. Yesterday, a Dutch official said they are postponing the restrictions indefinitely for further study. Petro Hermans, a project officer, told reporters that they were looking into the legality of the policy, which was aimed to reduce the problems associated with drug tourism. Cannabis remains technically illegal, but the Dutch government decriminalized possession in 1976, and the Netherlands is now a mecca of pot tourism with over 700 licensed coffee shops. Almost 4 million foreigners visit the border city of Limburg every year to purchase cannabis alone. University experts are doing a feasibility study, and the results are expected in mid-January. So, Russ, it looks like our Amsterdam coffee houses are safe for the moment.
Yeah, I got reports back from some of the folks that attended the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam this year, Danny Danko and Dave Bienenstock for a couple of guys. And they all told me to a man that the coffee shops in Amsterdam specifically want to let Americans know they are still open for business. We get a lot of reefer madness that comes across the pond here where they want to tell us, oh, the Dutch tried it and it just turned out horrible, and, oh, they want to shut the coffee shops and so on. When really they have done a few restrictions. They decided to restrict the coffee shops that were within, I think it was 1,000 meters or 500 meters of a school, something like that. Maybe it's 200 meters. Don't convert from metric so well, at least when it's not grams. Anyway, so yeah, they were a little concerned about the drug tourism coming in from Belgium. The idea of these other countries in the European Union traveling to Amsterdam to get their smoke on. But the business owners, the actual coffee houses out there in Amsterdam and all throughout Holland want to let us know that it's far overblown. Most Dutch cities are very happy with their coffee houses. And, of course, they're very, very happy with their lower rates of adult drug use and lower rates of teen marijuana use than what we have in the United States under our punitive laws. So don't believe the hype. The coffee houses are still in business.
It only comes twice a day, but I don't care. It's 4:20 somewhere.
Hey everyone, time to take a look at our cannabis community calendar, which is available online at normal.org/calendar. Coming up here in local chapter news, Philly NORML is having their open meeting on Thursday, January 7th. Find out dates, times, and places at phillynormal.org. That's Philadelphia. Kansas City NORML is at Damage Control with Primer 55, appearing with a band there, passing out information, flyers, and tabling. Check them out at kcnormal.org or just call 888-KC-NORML. On Friday, January 8th, KC NORML is getting involved with Missouri Senator Jolie Justice, and they want you to tell her that Missouri needs a medical marijuana bill. For information on that, check out bill.kcnormal.org. On Saturday, January 9th, Oregon NORML is having their twice-monthly cardholders meeting for members of Oregon NORML and the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Check out more information at ornorml.org. And on Saturday, KC NORML, Kansas City NORML, is also having another patient meeting, 888-KC-NORML or kcnormal.org for more details. And on Saturday as well, NORML of Waco, Inc. in Waco, Texas is having a monthly meeting at the home of their executive director, Cliff Duvall. For more information, check out normalwacoinc.org or contact Cliff at normalwacoinc.org. That's C-L-I-F, just one F in Cliff's name. So that is our cannabis community calendar for the day. It's a normal shout-out. All right, time for our normal shout-out where we bring the spotlight down on local activists who are trying to make a difference. And I want to give a shout-out, and this is not exactly local, and since we're a NORML national organization, not exactly national, but I want to give a shout-out to my friend William Lantelme down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We've been talking about his website, growroom.net, which is apparently the source for the cannabis community down there in Brazil. We're trying to bring them online as an international NORML chapter and help them get some grant funding to spread the message of ending adult marijuana prohibition down there in South America, specifically in Brazil. So anybody listening to my voice from Brazil, if you're interested, I can get you in touch with William. Just send me an email at stash@normal.org. Also, don't forget to check out the new Stash blog at stash.normal.org, completely redesigned with easy access to headlines, a great little chat feature, and all the stuff you've come to expect from NORML. Great stories and videos that we don't have time to bring you here on the Stash. Check it out, stash.normal.org. We've got to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages. We've got to pay a few bills. If you'd like to advertise with the Normal Show Live, send me an email at stash@normal.org.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? Reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? Reefer man. If he said he smelled vagina, he would say in South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Law420.com. Hello, I'm Russ Belville, Outreach Coordinator for NORML. In my job, I read literally hundreds of headlines each month involving nonviolent, productive citizens whose lives are ripped apart by a marijuana or drug arrest. Many citizens could avoid arrest by refusing police searches and remaining silent, but police are well trained to confuse and intimidate. That's why you have a right to speak to an attorney before answering any police questions. I hope you never need to exercise that right, but if you do, make your first call to the law offices of John C. Lucy IV. John Lucy is an accomplished criminal defense attorney with expertise in Oregon's medical marijuana law. John Lucy understands and respects cannabis and drug consumers of all backgrounds. Call John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit in downtown Portland. Address available at law420.com. That's John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit law420.com today.
76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.normal.org.
5 of the last 7 people to run for president, and the last 3 winners have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House.
Welcome back to Normal Show Live. It's 23 after the hour. We hope you enjoyed your 420 break out there on the East Coast. We're going to get to some music here for our Daily Toker Tunes, so stick around. This is Normal Show Live. It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Our PodSafe music is donated by freedom-loving musicians who support our goal of ending adult marijuana prohibition. Today we bring you tunes for Electric Tuesday, our segment featuring the best of modern electronic music in the genres of dance, new age, house, and electronica, brought to you by Sarah Kant Photography. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Normal Show Live, send it to us at stash@normal.org. Now, here's some great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes. AM started as a side project for Andrew Moore, who was in a rock band called Oberlin in his hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. As AM gained publicity, including radio play, and Andrew Moore was featured in the Globe and Mail as part of the Wavelength series, and gained freelance work making music for theater, TV, and independent films, the project grew into a trio encompassing Oberlin's members. The band then gained 6 other members in horns and vocals to become a 9-piece electro-funk orchestra playing electroacoustic party music to all and sundry. Prescription was composed mainly of samples from a day at a medical clinic in Germany. This unique experimental electronica uses samples like a heart monitor and other medical equipment, as well as coughing, to create a minimalistic yet layered track. If the patients were in AM's home country, they'd be able to use marijuana medicinally and perhaps avoid the clinic entirely, and the coughing with the use of a vaporizer. Of course, if the patients were in the next country over from Germany, they could simply sit in a coffee house regardless. Let's make 2010 the year marijuana law in the United States really starts to look more like Canada and the Netherlands. You can find AM on their website, musicbyam.com, at MySpace at musicbyam, Facebook, GarageBand, and CBC Radio 3. And if you can get to Toronto, check them out at Lee's Palace on Friday, January 15th. This is AM with your Electric Tuesday tune, Prescription.
Ja. Guten Morgen. So, schönen guten Morgen.
Yeah, that's AM with the song Prescription, a little bit of interesting acoustic electronica, which I always thought was oxymoron, contradiction in terms. But all right, acoustic, good stuff there from AM and Prescription. Coming up after this break, we are going to be speaking with Paul Armentano, the NORML Deputy Director, and MPP's Aaron Smith on the historic vote coming up in California on marijuana legalization contained in Assembly Bill 390. We want you to contact the folks at your California legislature to make sure that they support the bill. Paul and Aaron will tell us all about it. You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation, and we're right back after these short messages.
On the road again. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Current is time we legalize the responsible use of marijuana and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. We are destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of good, hard-working Americans every year in this country for no good reason. There's absolutely nothing wrong with smoking pot. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact NORML at NORML.org.
Starfish Design, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
We're back here with Normal Show Live, and we're going to talk about California legalization. Let's get it on.
Normal Show Live reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
You better look at the clock, cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed. Smoke that weed. Smoke that weed. Smoke that.
For almost 40 years, NORML has been the place to go for the latest studies and news on marijuana science, policy, and activism. For over a decade, one man at NORML has written and reviewed more studies and news stories regarding marijuana than almost anyone on the planet. First as Senior Policy Analyst and now as Deputy Director, NORML's Paul Armentano has written for major newspapers, academic journals, and magazines on the subject of cannabis and is frequently requested as an expert witness in the courtroom. His knowledge and experience are an amazing asset to the cannabis community. Available to you now in a segment we call Behind the Headlines with Paul Armentano.
All right, let's welcome Paul Armentano to the show. Paul, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Russ.
Fantastic.
It's good to be
and
here.
Our guest today is also from the Marijuana Policy Project, Aaron Smith. Aaron, what's your title down there in California, by the way?
Hey, Russ. I'm the California Policy Director, and it's great to be on the show again.
Okay, California Policy Director. Yeah, I was going to say State Director. I wasn't sure if that was accurate, so I wanted to make sure we got the right info. The segment is Behind the Headlines with Paul Armentano. And, Paul, the headline we're talking about right now is California Assembly Bill 390. For those who may be new to this issue, could you tell them what's involved in this Assembly Bill?
Sure. This was a bill that was introduced last year, but this coming Tuesday, it is going to go to a vote before not one, but probably two different Assembly committees. First, it's going to go before Public Safety, and if Public Safety passes the bill, it's then going to go before the Assembly Committee on Health. And what Assembly Bill would do, if it were to be enacted, is that it would protect the adult personal user of marijuana and personal cultivator of marijuana. A person would be able to possess marijuana in the privacy of their own home and not face any civil or criminal sanction. They would not necessarily face any state or local government regulation. That would also be the case if they grew small amounts of marijuana. What AB 390 would also do, however, is that it attempts to set up a regulatory system that would license and tax the commercial production and retail distribution of marijuana as well. So it's protecting the private consumer while trying to establish a way to meet the larger market need in a manner that's relatively similar to alcohol.
All right. Now, Aaron Smith from MPP, you know, a lot of people when they hear about these bills coming up, they don't really have a good idea of the twists and turns that it has to get through to even come up for a vote before the entire legislature, let alone get in front of the governor. But looking at the process that's in front of you, do you see that we're going to have any forward progress on this bill? Do you anticipate it making out of committee?
Yeah, we're all very optimistic that the bill has a great shot of making it at least out of the first committee, which, as Paul noted, is the Public Safety Committee, which is going to address the public safety issues around the impact of this legislation. There's 7 members of that committee, and the author of the bill is the chairman of that committee, and that's Tom Amiano from San Francisco, who's authored the bill and a longtime proponent for marijuana reform. And if in fact we have a majority vote, which would be four. We need 4 votes to get out of that committee. It would then go on to the Health Committee, which has 14 members, and honestly is more of an uphill battle. But it's important to note that this would be the first time in our nation's history that an outright legalization bill has ever made it out of a legislative committee, and that's historic, and that is really would show the strides we've made in just the last year towards ending marijuana prohibition.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, the fact that we're even able to talk about it without getting laughed out of the State House at this point, I think, is a significant progress. And what is the dates that we're looking for, and how can people help, Aaron?
Well, the hearings are scheduled for a week from today. That will be January 12th. And, people can help by contacting their representatives and letting them know that this is an issue that's important to them and that they want marijuana taxed and regulated and are tired of being treated like criminals. One way to do that is to visit MPP's Action Center online, and that would be at www.mpp.org/AB390, and that helps direct people to send emails to the legislature. Also, we're encouraging folks to meet in their district offices of legislators, especially if they live in any of the committee members' districts. I'd encourage folks to have web access to get on Google and find out who their legislator is, and if they are in fact a member of the Public Safety Committee or the Health Committee, to get down to their district office and tell the staff that how they want them to vote.
Absolutely, and we're speaking with Paul.
Aaron's really right on that, too. I just want to emphasize that we're encouraging people to actually pick up the phone and call the members of these committees at their district offices. I know it's easier for folks, more convenient for folks to send a quick email, but in this case, we really want to encourage people to actually call on the phone or also possibly fax these individuals. And that's really the strategy we want to take over the next few days to make it clear to these individuals that the California public supports this effort.
Absolutely. We've seen in the California field poll a 56% support for legalization, 60% when we start looking at the urban areas of Southern California that have experience, at least with the medical marijuana side of things, and they want to take it another step further. We're speaking with Paul Armentano, the NORML Deputy Director, and MPP's Aaron Smith, the California Policy Director. And, gentlemen, we'll be taking some calls at 347-994-1810 after the next break. Can you hang out and answer some calls from listeners?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, great. I wanted to ask another question here. California is really the hotbed of marijuana legalization right now. In addition to the AB 390 that's coming through, there are also 3 different groups that are attempting to get an initiative placed on the ballot for marijuana legalization. Tax Cannabis 2010 says they've already got the signatures necessary to do that. So, Aaron Smith, I wanted to ask you, how do the actions by local people trying to put these initiatives through, do they have any effect? Do they have any pressure on the lawmakers to do something before the people do something?
I think so. I think one of the things that we talk about when we meet with legislators is look at, California's history with Proposition 215, and frankly, the legislature failed to implement Prop 215 in a timely way, and that caused all sorts of local problems, or perceived problems anyway, on the parts of local governments. And so, our message to the legislators is you better get out in front and find a way to tax and regulate marijuana sales, because if you don't do it, then the people will ultimately. And what's interesting, this year, for the first time ever, it seems that everyone I have met with in the Capitol, in Republicans and Democrats alike, even our fiercest opponents, are publicly even admitting that marijuana legalization is an inevitability in California. And so, our opponents are no longer, they know that they're running on the defense and that they're ultimately going to lose. So I think that learning from the history of Prop 215 and knowing that this is an inevitability, it is putting pressure on the members of the legislature to do something right here on this issue.
No, that is so great to know that local people, working within the political system can put some pressure on these legislators. Paul, as we come back to you, let's look to the future, and let's say this bill gets through all its committees, gets through the legislature, and surprise of all surprise, Governor Schwarzenegger signs it. What would the world be like for your average marijuana consumer? I mean, would they have to go to liquor stores? Would they have to pay exorbitant taxes? Do they have to get licenses? What are some of the details involved?
Well, of course, as you said, Russ, that's a huge if. And obviously we don't know along the ways, as is the case with most legislative proposals, what sort of amendments, what sort of changes would take place as a measure like this would wind its way through the legislative process. But, the way the bill is written now, as I mentioned earlier, for the average user of marijuana who simply uses marijuana occasionally or even with some moderation, but for their own personal use, nothing would really change other than they'd no longer be a criminal under state law. They'd be able to possess a small amount of marijuana up to 1 ounce in the privacy of their home. That would no longer be a criminal offense. There would be no penalty whatsoever for engaging in that behavior. They would be able to share marijuana with friends. That would not be a criminal penalty, and they could grow their own marijuana if it was for their own personal use or if it was for the personal use of a group of close confidants. That wouldn't be a criminal offense. And for individuals who wanted to get into, say, the business end of marijuana, there would be a model set forth by the state, a regulatory model that would allow for the licensing and production and retail distribution of marijuana for commercial and retail purposes. And this would really be one of the first places in this country, in some cases in the world, that would allow for such a licensed retail distribution system. But for the average person who uses marijuana, their life really probably won't change that much at all, other than they no longer be looked at as criminals under the law.
So the guy in California who wants to grow a pot plant in his closet, dry it, roll it, and smoke it himself, won't have to pay taxes, won't have to get a license, anything like that?
No, they wouldn't have to do anything like that. Their behavior would be no different than it was the day before this passed, other than, like I said, they wouldn't have to fear being a criminal. They wouldn't have to fear arrest. The model would be very similar to the model in place right now for alcohol. A person can purchase alcohol from a distributor or from a store, and if they do so, they will pay retail tax just like they would on any other market commodity. But if they wanted to brew their own alcohol at home, they could do so without interference, local, state, or government regulation, as long as they weren't turning around and taking that alcohol and trying to market it or sell it themselves. It's really no different than if I was growing tomatoes in my backyard. The government would not stand in my way. If I wanted to share those tomatoes with friends when they came over for dinner, that action also would be free of government interference. But if I wanted to take those very same tomatoes, go to the farmer's market or go to my local supermarket and begin selling them commercially, at that point I would face licensing fees and government regulation. And this model would treat marijuana very similarly.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. There's a guy out there named Bruce. I wanted to make sure heard that. All right, so let's go to the phone calls here at 347-994-1810. I got a gentleman named Dustin in California as well who is got a question for us. Dustin, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Riff.
All right, go ahead with your question, Dustin.
My question to you is, do you guys really think that this is going to pass here?
Let's go to Aaron first.
Well, honestly, I don't think that anybody is realistically thinking this is going to become law this year. The number of hurdles it would have to go through just makes that unrealistic, especially given the governor. However, this has made it, further than ever before, and the rule of thumb in the legislative process is that it takes a good 3 to 4 years to make law, even something as far less controversial. And as Russ pointed out, not too long ago, people like us were in the Capitol talking about ending prohibition, and we were being laughed at. Now we're getting meetings with high-level staffers and with members of the legislature, and people are seriously considering this. So, this is a long-term. This has always been a long-term plan, but I do think that we're in the home stretch here for sure.
Yeah, I want to be clear with something, too, that many of your listeners may not be aware of. Oftentimes when we talk about the history of marijuana prohibition, we focus on the date 1937, that, of course, being when Congress enacted the federal prohibition of marijuana. But it needs to be said that many states, in fact, most states, enacted state criminal prohibitions on marijuana use prior to 1937, and California has the notorious reputation of being one of the first states to outlaw marijuana use and production, and that was done in 1913. So California has almost a 100-year history of criminal marijuana prohibition, and Tuesday's vote is actually going to be the first time in almost 100 years that a legislative committee in the state of California has voted on the option of abolishing this failed policy. So this, as Aaron said earlier, this is a historic event, and I think people need to understand it for what it is, but they also need to be realistic. We are not going to be able to overturn 100 years of bad law in one day or in 1 year. This will be an ongoing process, but we are heading in the right direction.
All right, excellent. Gentlemen, we've got to wrap things up here. Let's go to Aaron first. Aaron with MPP.org. Give them the website information if they want to contact their elected officials.
It's mpp.org/AB390, and that's a very easy way to send an email to your representatives. I would encourage folks to do that, and then they would find out who their assembly members are, and at which point they should also follow up with a phone call. And the information for their members' phone numbers is readily available on Google, and if they're not on the internet, it should be in the front of the phone book.
Excellent. And Paul, we've also got some action alerts out at NORML's website.
Yes, we do. If people actually visit NORML.org, the homepage right now, they will see a specific action alert about California, about AB 390 and Tuesday's hearing. And if they click on the link there, they will actually be able to go to our Take Action Center. There is a directory of the committee members that we're targeting on that page. Their fax numbers are there. Their phone numbers are there. There are also numbers being provided for the committees that will be voting on this bill on Tuesday. And we encourage people to leave a concise and polite phone call for those committees, encouraging them and urging them to support this effort. And also, like you can do on the MPP site, people can also send an automatic email to their member of the assembly as well from our page. So if you just go to www.norml.org, all that information is going to be at your fingertips.
Fantastic. Thanks for the update, both of you. And folks, I don't care what acronym you get behind, NORML, MPP, it doesn't matter. The alphabet soup doesn't matter. What matters is that you get involved with changing marijuana laws. We'll be right back with more stuff here on NORML Show Live. We'll be taking your calls at 347-994-1810. We look forward to talking to you, and we've got some folks hanging on the line right now waiting to talk to us. We will be right back as soon as I can get this editor to go where I want it to go. All right, here we go. NORML Show Live. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
Join the conversation now. Call NORML Show Live, 347-994-1810. That's 1-347-994-1810. We're taking your call now.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit MarijuanaIsSafer.com. Welcome back, Normal Show Live. Taking your calls right now, 347-994-1810.
Or to support legalizing marijuana use.
I think it's time for debate.
Normal Show Live.
And I think that we also study very carefully on what other countries are doing that have legalized marijuana and other drugs.
Marijuana Nation.
I saw him hanging there afterwards, a celebration party after the Mr. Olympus smoking a joint. Did he really smoke a joint? And did he, in fact, inhale?
Saying I'm in need of a change. I'm in need of a change. See, I used to get high.
John said that you and him used to smoke weed together.
He was right.
He was right?
We always had a good time. We know how to enjoy ourselves.
Nothing to lose, now I can't get high. Can't get high.
Go Hagen, you got what you want. Give these people air.
It's come to pass and nights tend to last much longer than they should.
I'll be back.
You get high.
That's right. Arnold Schwarzenegger knows plenty about marijuana smoking. You can catch him in the documentary film Pumping Iron, smoking a joint right there on film. It takes a lot of gall to tell us that we can't have legal marijuana when you are enjoying it yourself, Mr. Governor. But let's go to the phones right now, 347-994-1810. Got a few people hanging out here waiting to talk to us. First, we're going to go to North Carolina, and we're going to be speaking here with Harold from North Carolina. I spoke to him earlier today on the phone and just said, hey, call in and just tell the whole world. So let's see if we got you on the line. Harold, can you hear me now? Oh, having some problems with our switchboard here. Harold, are you on the line? Oh, I love it when the computers do this to me. All right. Harold, can you hear me okay?
I hear you. You just can't seem to hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Maybe it's the Verizon guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tell us what's up in North Carolina, man.
Right now we have two bills going to committee, as you know, trying to get medical marijuana brought to the state of North Carolina. I am a patient that could benefit from that. I was originally diagnosed back in 2001, just prior to 9/11, with bipolar disorder. Unfortunately, most of my family is not behind me on this. Most of my family and friends have pretty much abandoned me on this.
Do they believe all that reefer madness garbage is going to make you a loser and you'll take heroin and all that?
Exactly.
Okay.
I've got several members of my family that live right there in San Diego, right along the Tijuana border, that say that because people started on marijuana, they went to heroin. Just like you said, it's the reefer madness. Right. My brother, who lives up in Virginia, just across the border, works for basically he's a subcontractor for the Department of Defense. And he smokes marijuana, but keep it hush, hush, don't say nothing to nobody. I think it should be legal, but I won't speak up for it.
Right, right.
New Year's Eve, I was involved in a car accident, and basically the equivalent of what I was left by my dad's death was a truck, and the truck got totaled. I could have been killed in the accident. I was very, very upset. I should not have been driving, and unfortunately the factory where I was working, which is actually owned by Warren Buffett, they want you off the property as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. I get off the property, and I'm tailing this guy who I've been working with for the last 3 days, and I'm just irate and upset on. And it's just like I couldn't see clearly, I couldn't think clearly, and I just wanted to scare the heck out of the guy. Well, I think I put a good scare into him because I totaled my truck, and like I said, the ambulance driver said I was very lucky to be alive.
Oh, man.
The psychotropic meds that they want to put me on, if you pay attention to the advertisements on TV, will cause suicidal thoughts. I have enough trouble with that as it is on my own. I don't need somebody else to put a bullet.
I always wonder when they hear those ads for the depression medications, tell your doctor if you have any suicidal thoughts or actions. Well, wait a minute, I'm depressed. That's the last thing I need.
Exactly. I'm actually seeing some doctors here at the Albemarle Mental Health Center here in Elizabeth City. And instead of trying to help me do something to change the laws, because she's more concerned with the kickback money that she's going to get for prescribing those medicines, then, let's try and get them let's try and change these laws. No, let's not do that, because then I can't get my kickback money.
That's right. Well, we're going to have to work to change the laws there in North Carolina. Harold, thank you for calling in. And I want folks, if you're interested in getting medical marijuana passed in North Carolina, look up the office of Representative Earl Jones in North Carolina. He is trying to get that taken care of and passed in the South. Be the first southern state to do that. We really hope that happens. We got another caller here, Scott from Denver, Colorado, the dispensary capital of America. As soon as my switchboard will respond to me. Oh, lovely. Don't you love it when the computers don't work? All right, let's see what we can do here. Switch over to this redirect here. And, yes, I cannot get anyone on the line. Carrie, if you're running the switchboard up there, can you get me Dustin from no, not Dustin, the next caller, Scott from Denver. Can you hear me, Scott? Oh, I'm afraid not. Okay, so it looks like we're having some problems with the link here to Blog Talk Radio trying to get the switchboard to load. So I will just go on with the story to end the show. I got this off of the Narconon News, like Narcotics Anonymous, right? Which a lot of folks realize is kind of an arm of Scientology, the Church of Scientology. This was published through a front news organization called Trans World News. And I just thought it was funny because the name really stood out to me. It says, a study by Dr. Alan Budney and colleagues at the University of Vermont in Burlington found that marijuana smokers who stop using the drug while in their home environment suffer from withdrawal symptoms that appear as severe as those associated with tobacco smoking. Really? Dr. Budney? Was Dr. Kushto out of town? Perhaps Dr. Smokabola from Hawaii is available? Anyway, Dr. Budney goes on to say that they studied 12 marijuana smokers over 3-day abstinence periods and found that these people that were abstaining from marijuana had consistent emotional and behavioral symptoms, quote, during abstinence and dramatically decreased when marijuana smoking resumed, suggesting these types of symptoms are the hallmark of acute marijuana withdrawal. They say craving, sleep difficulty, decreased appetite, increased aggression, anger, and irritability, and strange dreams. Hey, I want to talk to all my tobacco and former tobacco smokers out there. Raise your hand if you think quitting pot is as tough as quitting tobacco. Let me look out there. No hands. I don't see any hands. Look, my parents were both smokers. My father was a drug and alcohol addict. He did speed. He did marijuana. He did cocaine. He did alcohol. And of all the things he ever had to kick, tobacco was the toughest. In fact, my dad has been clean and sober now for about 28 years, but he's only been tobacco-free for about 10. And that took a hospital trip and the doctor saying you're going to die if you don't stop smoking cigarettes for him to be able to kick that. So this always just makes me so angry when I hear these stories and they talk about marijuana addiction, because I think it truly demeans the people that have severe addictions. Yes, some people do have dependency issues with cannabis, but that's more along the lines of like being a shopaholic or being a sexaholic or being someone who's a compulsive gambler or something like that. It's a behavioral issue. It's not an issue of physical dependence. And that's what makes me so mad about it. So a lot of these drugs have physical dependence where if you take the drug and stop taking it, you can die. Literally, you can die. The actual withdrawal from the drug itself can kill you. Alcohol, heroin, very big examples of that. Now, join us tomorrow on Normal Show Live. We'll be speaking with Dr. Mitch Earlywine in our Cannabis Science segment. We hope you'll join us every day at Normal Show Live, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Time just flies by. Take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live. the voice of the marijuana nation.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
All right, it's time for Normal Show Live. After the show, we're just like Oprah on the Oxygen Network. We give you a little bit of extra here. For those of you who are downloading the podcast from stash.normal.org, I still can't get to the switchboard here for Blog Talk Radio, so I don't know if Cannabis Carrie is out there or not. Carrie, can you hear me? Well, she might be able to hear me, but she can't talk. So, doggone it. Boy, we're going to have to get that taken care of. I want to apologize to the two callers that were hanging on the line waiting to talk. Boy, what a bummer. You get on a talk radio show, you hang on the line waiting to talk, and when it comes your time to talk, the software doesn't work. Well, we'll do something about that. Really want to be able to talk to folks. I do want to encourage people to tune in tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon for our Cannabis Science segment with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. He won't be able to join us live, unfortunately, but he will be available. We'll be doing a pre-recorded interview. And also, if you want to call in after that interview with your health questions with regard to marijuana, I've been interviewing with Dr. Earlywine for about 1.5 years now, so I might be able to answer a lot of the questions you might have, especially regarding some of those reefer madness myths that are out there. Also, don't forget to check out the new Stash blog at stash.normal.org. We've redesigned the site, and it's really going well. We're very happy about it. We're getting a lot of good response from people. The Blog Talk Radio site looks like it's coming back up slowly but surely. I'm going to see if I can get Cannabis Carrie on the line here to say goodbye to us all. Checking out the folks in the chat room as well. I've set up a new link for the chat room if you want to use that in the future. We use the bit.ly URL shortening service, so you can go to bit.ly/NORML chat. Now, it is case sensitive, so the NORML will have to be in capital letters. So check that out. And let's see. No, it doesn't look like Carrie's on the line with us since that switchboard dropped. So unfortunately, can't do anything about that. Doggone it. Oh, well. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.